welcome to Leader Exchange 2026, May of 2026, our final luncheon for our spring series. And we are honored to have Adam Tarno with us this morning. Adam, thanks so much for driving over from Dallas, Texas, all the way from Dallas. So thanks for coming this morning.
In. It's always iffy when you get to that Fort Worth border. Right?
I know.
The Dallas side in or not?
People tell me when they cross the border, they take a big, deep breath and they feel, like life is going to be okay. Is that true?
It totally is.
Yeah, I know.
My wife have gone public.
Yeah.
We've gone public with this before. I think you guys live on the right side of the Metroplex.
Exactly. You are right. But you have to have some good people over in Dallas.
That's right.
They need missionaries too. So it's good, man. So we're glad you're here. So thanks for coming. Grew up in Maryland, you said.
Yeah.
And then went and you were a Clemson Tiger.
Yep.
That's great. How was that down at Clemson?
I loved it. I mean, I came to know Jesus when I was there. So
fantastic.
I went into college one guy and left a completely different guy.
Yeah.
Separate and apart from that, which is obviously a big deal, but separate and apart from that, I loved it. The culture was amazing. I made some really great friends.
Yeah, South Carolina's great.
It is. It is. It was not a good football era.
Was it
during
not?
That time.
Okay.
No, we were in the
Hatfield,
back
in the days.
Tommy West.
Okay.
No disrespect to those men who I'm sure are listening.
That's right. They are. They've tuned in for sure.
Right.
We played Clemson. I told you that down in Death Valley. We won't talk about scores or anything else. We played at Furman up in just 30 minutes north of you guys.
That's right.
So we used to come down to Clemson to have fun. So Clemson, Auburn, take some road trips. So, but hey, we're glad you're here. Thanks so much for coming. My wife has been listening to a lot of your podcasts, and she's going to introduce you today. And she wanted me to ask this one question. Do you know how many times you use the word fog in your new book, The Fog of Work? Do you know how many times that you?
That's really interesting because I just interviewed a guy on my podcast that used the word trust
a lot.
And it was well over 1,000 times that he used that word. So I don't know. I'm going to guess.
And neither do I, but I just thought I'd ask the question. So
now I need to know. I'm going to go home and do the search on the file.
You accountant people, you're just like that. You want to know. So hey, tell me about Memorial Day 2009, is it?
Yeah, it really was. So I started my career as a CPA.
Yeah.
Third generation accountant, actually.
Wow.
My grandfather was an accountant. My dad was an accountant. My birthday's April 16th.
Okay.
So I had to be, I had to start my career. When I showed up to Clemson and they looked at all that, they're like, yeah, we'll just sign you up for the accounting program. That sounds about right for you.
That's great.
So I had been in public accounting and been in accounting for about, close to 10 years at that point. There's a busy season in the beginning part of every year. I was in audit, not in tax, but we still had that early part of the year busy season. I never could handle the stress. It was an incredibly stressful season. It just always was.
60, 70, 80 hours a week.
Yeah, we had, it was the 55-hour minimum. You would, especially the last few weeks, you were pushing 70 to 75 hours. Man. 6 days a week, but it was just this cloud that hung over your head for months.
Yeah.
So I would make it through the deadline around April 30th. And then for 2 weeks, I would ride adrenaline, just being like, okay, now I feel good that that's done. And then towards the end of May, I would hit these meltdowns, these breakdowns. And so in 2009, I had one. It was the Wednesday before Memorial Day, the Thursday morning before Memorial Day. I just woke up and I literally couldn't go to work that day.
Wow.
And I just sat there and just said, I can't do this. And so I just sent an email to my two partners that I worked with a lot and just said, guys, I don't need a 4-day weekend. I need a 5-day weekend. I'll be in after Memorial Day. I'm not doing well. They were great. They were very kind.
Wow.
And
tell me who you're working. Can you tell me who you worked for?
Yeah. At the time, it was BKD, which is now Forvis Mazzara, I think is what it's called. They've gone through a couple of mergers.
Okay.
But anyway, I came back that Tuesday and they were very kind and empathetic and sat down and said, what's going on? And I basically told them, I can't handle this stress anymore.
Yeah.
I'm really struggling with the stress that comes through the middle of busy season and then some of the smaller busy seasons that would happen as well. And I'll never forget, they were very nice, but they just said, you're going to have to figure that out.
Yeah. And it's either you do it or you don't.
You don't. Yeah. And there was no, I look back on it now and I just feel like it was maybe an opportunity that they could have taught me something.
Right.
Or shared with me, because they obviously figured out a way to handle it because they had been going through those busy seasons for 20 to 25 years. Yeah. And so they had found some way to manage it. I was struggling to manage it. And they didn't. They just said, you're going to have to figure that out. And so 6 months later, I quit.
Yeah. Yeah, and they lost a good one, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and a lot of them like you that people are, companies are losing good people,
Yeah.
and the turnover hurts them, it hurts you, it hurts everybody,
For sure.
and
Yeah.
in the long run, maybe it just wasn't. You're doing bigger and better things. So
Yeah.
I know you're glad you're probably not in that rat race.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, they're losing some good people. You've
Mm-hmm.
been working with middle managers for a long time. What would be the greatest challenge that you've seen? The things that are most painful to them?
Yeah, and it's a lot of what I experienced when I was going through that
Sure.
as a CPA, and then some of the story I'll share even at lunch today is when I left public accounting and quit and went into ministry.
Right.
For the first year, I thought.
Then you found it was just easy.
It really was. I thought I'd won the lottery. Yeah. I was like, this is amazing. There's no stress. I'm not working these crazy hours. Yeah. And then the church did something really strange. They promoted me.
Yeah. To middle manager.
Yeah. And I was right back in that valley and that stress and that fog all over again. And I didn't have a system for dealing with it as a CPA, and I still didn't have a system for dealing with it as a pastor. And fortunately, by God's grace, there was somebody that came into my life around 2018 to help me with that. And back to your question on what is the most stressful thing that I think a lot of mid-level leaders face, and I think it really comes down to being held accountable for outcomes that you don't fully control.
Yeah. You're trying to work here and work there, but you can't really control everybody else.
You can't. Right? Yeah. And I mean, when I showed up, probably the last leadership position I had before I moved on to do what I'm doing now, I was responsible for all of our Sunday stuff, all the live production. I was over the arts team. So we had live production and music and film and graphic design. And there was a lot. Everything we did was for public consumption. And I was given a directive when I took that role. Very simply, it was 3 words. It was make Sunday awesome.
Yeah.
And do whatever I can to make Sunday awesome. So very clear.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a lot of Sunday I don't control.
Yeah.
I mean, you want me to get into the list? The list is quite long, and it starts with the weather,
worship
and then the
leader, though.
Yeah. But yet, as a mid-level leader, you're being held accountable.
Yeah.
If Sunday's not quote awesome, they're not going to go to the worship leader. They're not going to go to the
coming
preacher.
to you.
They're going to come to me.
Yeah.
And that vulnerability, I think, causes a tremendous amount of stress. It's a very uncomfortable position for a lot of humans to be in, and we don't often react the best way to that.
Yeah. You've said that there's no villain in middle management, but there's valleys.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I don't know about you, but when my expectations don't meet reality, I love to look for somebody to blame.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that's human nature, right?
And I joke in the book, I feel like I'm an Olympic level blamer. The speed at which I can blame somebody is shocking.
My wife might agree with me, about me.
That may be. And there was a gentleman named Randy Marshall who came into my life around 2018 that was helping me to navigate, teaching me a system for dealing with this stress. And what he helped me to realize is a lot of the stress I was feeling, it wasn't because of my organization. It wasn't because of poor communication. It wasn't because of my team. It wasn't even because of me. It wasn't personal. My issue, there really was no villain in my story that I was looking for.
Yeah.
There was just a valley. Yeah. And so when you become a leader, yes, you maybe climb up on an org chart, but in reality, you go down into a valley.
Right.
And you've got pressure now from all sides. And so you've got your team that can give you some pressure,
yeah.
bosses, constituents, customers, parishioners, whatever you want to call them on the other side.
Sure.
And that's just the natural terrain of leadership. And so he got me to quit looking for a villain and just start learning to navigate a valley, and how to handle the stress that is associated with that.
And with the church, they just throw in the scripture about being a servant leader, and then you feel even worse. Right?
Yeah, you really do. And well-meaning things. I mean, and it's great to study God's word and to hide God's word in your heart and to pray and to seek the Spirit's guidance on a lot of that. Maybe a conversation for another day, but that to me, even a lot of times with my faith, what I felt like the faithful thing to do was to do nothing. Was just to let go. Yeah. And because what I see in the valley, a lot of times when you're being held accountable for outcomes you can't control, there's 2 really well-worn paths in the valley that I see. And one of them is for people to freak out.
Right.
And that is your natural control freak.
Right.
Your micromanager, those types of things. That's a very common response.
So leads to anger and blow ups a lot of
all
times.
Of that. Yeah, because you're trying to control people,
Sure.
and you'll use emotional manipulation and anger and raise your voice, and there's lots of different tactics you can use there. That's a very well-worn path. Doesn't really help you get through the valley, but it's one that is used a lot. But there's another path, and this was the one that I struggled with, and that it's not freaking out, it's checking out.
Yeah.
Where I would just, again, Olympic level blamer. I love to tell people, well, I sent them an email and I haven't heard from them yet. Well, I told them, but they haven't done anything yet.
Right.
And so that checking out led to a tremendous amount of language I can use now that I didn't know then. Just a lot of learned helplessness and feeling like I was a victim and just doing nothing and pointing fingers and looking for a villain.
And you multiply yourself times thousands and thousands of middle managers, and that's, some of the challenges we're running into, both with the company and with the employee, right? I mean, the employee's pretty miserable, the company's frustrated possibly, and they're not getting the outcomes that they would want. And that's really what the book's all about.
It is.
It's seeing the valley, understanding it first, and then going, okay, here's how you
get through it.
You offer something called the fog clearing sentence. Tell me about that a little bit.
So this was, again, what Randy Marshall helped me to do. This was some of the system for dealing with that stress. And it's got it's one sentence with 3 parts, and it's a little bit of you fill in the blank. So kind of some Mad Libs a little bit here, or choose your own adventure. And it starts like this. It's basically, I don't control blank, comma, but I do control blank, comma. So I will blank, period.
Sounds a little bit like AA, right?
It does.
The things I can control, things I can't control, right?
Yeah.
Good.
And
tell me more about the sentence.
So the sentence, what it does is when you're in the middle of the fog rolls in. This is the way to handle some of that stress, is to slow down and first list out all the things in this situation that you do not control, which sounds a little counterintuitive to start there, but I think it's really important to start there, because as humans, we need to be reminded that we don't control results oftentimes, and we don't control other people.
Right.
And so that is really helpful to list out. Here's all the things I don't control, but I do control. And anybody that I've ever met that has the ability to make it through the valley, to make it through hard situations, make it through stressful situations, that piece, that ability for them to focus on what they and they alone can control in a situation, that's their superpower. So it's not a DNA wiring. It's not a personality trait. It is a habit and an ability for them to go, all right, there's a lot that I control in this situation. And I can control initiating conversations, or even just my attitude and what am I going to do in the morning before I show up to work? How am I going to handle my time outside of work? I can do this. It's just the list goes on and on and on. And then you pick, all right, so what am I going to do based on what I can control? And that's what it becomes. It just becomes this fog clearing sentence of going, I don't know if I'm going to get the results I want, but these are all the steps I can take that'll get me towards the result that it is that I want.
And you can let go of a lot of brain fog.
That's right.
Tell me the third part of that sentence.
So I will.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah,
so making the declaration.
It is. Yeah,
this could be a parenting book, man.
It's really interesting you mentioned that. The 3 or 4 texts that I've gotten of people that have started to read it, that's the immediate use case.
Because, you're kind of a little bit in middle management there. You can't control your kids, and then your spouse and you have to kind of work together a little bit. But I think those are great questions. And if you can just discipline yourself to do that, that's the hard part, is when you're in the fog of work, there's a lot of chaos going on, and just to be able to step back and remember that. That's the discipline that has to happen. So, what does this mean for senior leaders and executives? Because the book's written for middle managers, but man, when you say it's written for middle managers, but actually it could be super helpful for executives to go, oh, okay. Now I get it. That's what they're dealing with. And they might have been a middle manager at some point in their own career. And they forgot.
I don't know many people that, unless they maybe started the company, that they just skipped over the valley. What I'm seeing with executives and senior level leaders is that there's nothing in the fog of work that that's gonna be new to them.
Okay.
I don't doubt they know how to control their controllables. That's the system that they have for handling the stress that's inevitable with leadership. I know they know that.
Right.
What I do doubt, though, what I doubt for a lot of senior level leaders is their ability to articulate how they navigate the fog of work.
Okay.
So let's go back to May of 2009.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those gentlemen clearly knew how to do it.
Yeah.
They had figured it out.
Yeah.
They had no words to describe what it was that was their system for handling stress.
They were doing it, but didn't know what.
Didn't know what.
Really, yeah.
So I think the fog of work gives senior level leaders a formula, if you will, or it gives them language to go, this is what I do. This is really the only way I know how to handle it. So Randy taught me that fog clearing sentence. I thought he was a genius.
Yeah.
Well, as I researched the book, I go and start to look back at the history of this idea of controlling your controllables.
Sure.
And Jeff, it goes back thousands of years.
Yeah.
It goes all the way back to Epictetus and Stoic philosophy and the dichotomy of control. And then Julian Ritter and the locus of control, even the basics of what Viktor Frankl talked about in Man's Search for Meaning.
And see, man, when you throw out those names, people you think are really smart too. I mean, that's just kind of a byproduct of it. Yeah.
And it just seems to be this principle that all of these great thinkers keep coming back to for thousands of years. So I just think it's durable. Yeah. And we really haven't come up with any other better system for handling the fog.
We think the fog of work is a modern deal, and it may be different, but like you said, people have been dealing with it for thousands of years in some form or fashion of leadership. And so, well, that's fantastic. What about someone who's listening right now to this podcast and they're going, man, I don't think, maybe they're in the same place you were in February of 2009 going, man, I don't know if I can survive this another week. What would you say to them?
I would say, the bad news is there's no way out of the valley.
Yeah.
The good news is there's a way through.
Yeah.
The valley's kind of ornery in one way is that it demands that you learn the lesson.
Yeah.
And if you don't learn the lesson, then you're just going to be hopping around and experiencing the same thing over and over again, like I did, thinking I'm going to run from one valley, leaving public accounting into ministry.
Right.
But it was the same issues in a completely different context. And it wasn't until I needed a system for handling this stress and this fog. And it wasn't until I learned that lesson that I started to make my way through the valley. So what I would tell the person who's sitting there just going, I think you're using words to describe where I am.
Yeah.
I would really encourage them to take some time with that fog clearing sentence and just recognize there's probably not a villain in your story from this perspective. It's just a valley, and there is a lot that you can control that will help you start to feel like you're making progress. And let me just put this out there as well, because when you're talking about valleys and you're talking about work, inevitably somebody's going to say, well, when should I quit? I mean, you quit. Not pointing at you, Jeff, but me, I quit. When should you quit? And I knew as I was writing the book, I knew that was going to be the big question. I wanted to save myself a bunch of email. And so I put in the last chapter, was like, okay, if you've tried everything and it's still not working, now what do you do? And it talked about quitting. And when is it a good time? And made the basic idea of that was, there is no way out of the valley, but you do get to choose which valley you want to walk through. Yeah. And for some people, it may be after they've tried everything. It may be they need to go move on and try something different.
And middle manager is a skill set that some would have and some wouldn't have. I mean, that's but there's what percentage of the workforce is middle management? I thought I read that.
I've seen a number of about 20 million middle managers, and I know that I think they're somewhat accountable for close to 70% of the workforce now.
That's amazing.
They're an incredibly important part of the global economy.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
what really make it happen.
They really are. Yeah. They really are. And they play a very unique role in organizational life. Yeah. They're not playing the same role as a senior leader, and they're not playing the same role as the individual contributor. And it's incredibly important. And I had some fun riffing off of another author of basically saying they are the verbs in the sentence of work. Exactly. They are the ones that are getting things done. Yeah. And I say that obviously to encourage them and bring some dignity back to it, but that's really more of a call for the senior level leader to go. The verbs can't be ignored. Without them, there's no action. No, exactly. And so we've got to spend some time with them.
And they make things happen. They're movers. They're also they can't get in the work. They got to kind of oversee the work, and that's another stressor because. like sometimes it would be easier to do it themselves for, a period of time.
That's right.
And they can't do that. Otherwise they can't, juggle all the balls.
That's
right.
right.
So,
yeah.
Well, Adam, we're super excited to have you.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Tell me a little, before we close, tell me a little bit about what you do. Tell our audience a little bit about what you do.
Yeah.
And if they wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Yeah. So I quit accounting in 2010.
Okay.
And then for the next 10 years, I was on staff at a church.
Yep.
And the DFW area. And then in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, I thought it would be a great time to make another change and go to a different valley.
That's perfect,
so
man.
It all worked out. But so right now I work with a firm called PeopleWorks International.
Okay.
We're a management consulting firm. I lead our leadership development practice. And
Great.
I get to go around the country and talk to mid-level leaders all day, every day.
Man.
And we get to train them. We do a lot of workshops and executive coaching with that, really focusing a lot on that mid-level leader. We do obviously do some work with executives and senior level leaders as well, but that's what I've been doing for the last 6 years, and it's been a blast.
Well, fantastic. We'll put it, with your permission, we'll put your contact information up
great.
and let people know about it. So, hey, thanks for being with us with our May 2026 Leader Exchange. Hope you'll come see us at one of our luncheons soon. Have a great summer.